Today we will discuss one of the concluding verses from the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much for coming on a weekday also. So this verse I'll explain the meaning and then we'll recite it a few times like yesterday. So Krishna is saying, Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuya. At the most confidential knowledge, Guhyatamam, most confident knowledge, Bhuya, I am speaking again. Shuru me paramam vachaha. Here, O Arjuna, these are my supreme words, paramam vachaha. Ishto sine, you are dear to me. How dear to me? Drudhamiti. That means I will always hold you dear to me. I am determined to love you. Ishto sine drudhamiti. Tato, therefore, vakshami, I am speaking. Te hitam. These words, the supreme words I am speaking for your benefit. Te hitam. In this verse, Krishna is pouring, is opening his heart and expressing his love for Arjuna. So let's recite this. Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuyaha. Shru me paramam vachaha. Ishtosi me drudhamiti. Tato vakshami te hitam. Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuyaha. Shru me paramam vachaha. Ishtosi me drudhamiti. Tato vakshami te hitam. Okay, one last time, all of us together. Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuya. Shru me paramam vachaha. Ishtosi me drudhamiti. Tato vakshami te hitam. Thank you. So the way we have discussed this series of Gita in practical life is that first, in the first session, we discussed about facing adversities. Where, does anyone remember the acronym that we used? ACT. So we talked about how accept that distress is unavoidable, contemplate a purpose that is bigger than distress, and then transcend the distress by absorption in Krishna. So that last point of transcend, for that we discussed the glory of bhakti and the glory of Radharani therein in yesterday's session. We discussed 3 R's: realization, revelation and recollection. Now today, in all of these, we want to absorb ourselves in Krishna. We understand how great bhakti is, how it can elevate us. Today we focus. I know this comes as recording in progress. Now part of me wants to say class in progress. So today's session will be for doing all this, for facing adversities in a devotional way. We appreciate the glory of Krishna's, the glory of bhakti. But what we also need to do is perceive Krishna's love for us. That we are trying to love Krishna, but if Krishna loves us, how can we know it? Can we experience at all at our level that Krishna loves us? And the Bhagavad Gita itself can seem a very philosophical book. So how can we perceive Krishna's love? So I'll talk about this using an acronym, ELMS. Now ELMS you may have heard, it's a tree, like elm tree, elm street you have. So I'll talk about 4 points based on 4 concluding verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Whenever I read a book, because I have also written a few books, therefore I often read a book not just as a reader but also as a writer. Okay, how is this book structured? And then the question comes up, where does the Gita, so if we consider the book Bhagavad Gita as a book which has been structured, so where does the Bhagavad Gita exactly begin and where does the Bhagavad Gita exactly end? So now we could say a straightforward answer is that the Bhagavad Gita begins at 1.1 and ends at 1878. That's a texture. Isn't it? That's true at one level. Now we could say that, okay, the Bhagavad Gita begins where Krishna speaks the first words. So we could say Krishna's first words are in 125 or 2.2 and then Krishna's last words are in 1872. So this could be considered to be the end of the Bhagavad Gita. Another start and end of the book. Another is that the first instructive word that Krishna speaks is in 2.11. Sorry, this is the first instructive word that Krishna speaks is in 2.11 and the last instructive word that Krishna speaks is in 1866. So we could say that that's where the Gita ends. And now these are all various fair ways of understanding where the Gita ends. But we could also look at the flow of the Gita itself, at the content. Sometimes the speaker is giving a class and then they say, okay, now this is where the class ends. But then they will be inspired and they speak a little bit more. And then there will be question and answer. So we can look at various points where the class ends. So from this perspective, I'll talk about 4 places where we could consider the ending of the Gita. So this 1863, the words before the words we discussed. 1870, 1866, so the acronym that I use is E, L, M and S applies to all of these, both of these, 73 and 78. And I'll explain why. What do I mean by this? And why would I consider these to be at various places the endings of the Gita? So each of these points to one particular feature of Krishna. So here in Krishna is in the role of an educator. In 1866 we see Krishna to be a lover. Then 1872 we see Krishna to be a mentor. And 73 and 78 we see Krishna to be a strength giver, an empowerer, but he does that in different ways. So this is what we are going to discuss today. That this is broadly of the outline of our session. How these 4 features of Krishna can attract us toward him and inspire us with the conviction that God really cares for us, that God really loves us. See, faith in God can be at various levels. At a basic level, we can say I have faith in God means I have faith in God's existence. And that's important, no doubt. If I consider faith in God. At a very basic level, there is faith in God's existence. But there are many people who may say, I believe in God. When I was starting Professor Bhakti, I told one of my relatives about Bhagavad Gita and God, and he says, I believe in God. He is happy there, I am happy here. So the idea is, many people may say God exists, but what is the relevance of God to me? They say, my life is going on well, I don't really need God. Or even if I pray to God, will God really help me? There are so many other ways. If I'm sick, I can go to a doctor, why do I need to go to God? What is the relevance of God? And beyond that is the benevolence of God. Benevolence means that He cares for us. He is our well-wisher. He doesn't just exist, He's not just important for us, but He cares for us. He loves us and He cares for us. If we can understand this through all our study of scripture, through our practice of bhakti, as chanting and other things, if we can get this conviction that Krishna loves me, that Krishna cares for me, that Krishna is truly my well-wisher, then that can become if we can come to this level, that can become our foolproof armor against life's adversities. We all, whether we are devotees or non-devotees, everybody is going to face problems in life. So if you consider the problems of life to be like bullets that are hitting us, then if we have this faith that Krishna is my well-wisher, then that can be like our armor. And it is this armor that the Bhagavad Gita provides Arjuna. And it is that armor that we all can also get if we dive deep into the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. So we are trying to come to this level of appreciating Krishna's benevolence. And we'll see how this benevolence is revealed in the conclusion of the Gita. So let's begin with the 4 conclusions. The one was 1863. So 1863 is when Krishna says, Iti te jnanam akyatam goyat goyataram maya vimrishaita dasheshena yathechasi tatha kuru. So here Krishna says that now you deliberate. Now I have spoken to you. I have spoken to you knowledge more confidential in the past. So if you consider Krishna's revelation, it is confidential, that is guhya. Then there is more confidential. And after that there will be most confidential. So Krishna is at 1863 saying that I am speaking to you the most, or rather I have spoken to you the knowledge more confidential than what I spoke in the past. And now you deliberate. Vimrishaita dasheshena yathechasi tatha kuru. You deliberate and do as you desire. Now different acharyas have given different explanations about what is the confidential and more confidential knowledge. They all agree more or less what is the most confidential knowledge. We'll come to that. But let's look at a couple of ways of analyzing it. The confidential knowledge is knowledge of Atma. That there is a core to us beyond our body. This itself is not something that many people understand. One of my friends was in Russia. He was giving a class there and he said, you are not your body. So a person in the audience raised his hand. Yes. If I am not my body, then whose body am I? The conception that I am the body is so deep-rooted. I am the body is so deep-rooted. Then if I am not my body, then whose body am I? So actually understanding that there is an identity to us that goes beyond our physicality, that itself is not a common knowledge. We might say it is the ABCD of Bhagavad Gita, but it's not easy to understand. Then after that, we could say, okay, if I am the Atma, what does it mean? And there is the knowledge of yoga. Okay, then how do you live according to Atma Gyan? Live with Atma Gyan. So this is the knowledge of various yogas that Krishna has given. That basically, if we truly understand that we are souls, then we should try to liberate the soul from material existence. We should try to take care of the needs of the soul. And the way to take care of the needs of the soul is by practicing yoga. So that is the second level. So this is what Krishna says, I have spoken to you now. And within yoga, there are many different yogas. In chapter 18 itself, Krishna has talked about karma yoga, then he's talked about jnana yoga, then he has come to bhakti yoga. So the way chapter 18 itself goes is that in one sense, Krishna is asked in 18.1 by Arjuna the same question. This question is essentially the same as what Arjuna asked in 2.7, in 3.1 and 5.1. Essentially it is, should I act, should I fight or should I not fight? Here Arjuna asks it slightly differently. Can you tell me what is the difference between Tyaga and Sannyas? Sannyas is more like external renunciation, Tyaga is internal detachment. So when Krishna, in answering this question from 1 to 48, he gives various kinds of analysis which ultimately culminates in Karma Yoga. Then 49 to 54, he's talking about Jnana Yoga. Then 55 till 62, he is talking about Bhakti Yoga in this particular chapter. So Krishna is saying, in this way, I have given you knowledge of how to apply Atma. And he says, now you deliberate and do as you desire. So here, Krishna is, in one sense, in the verse, 63rd verse, Krishna is being revealed as, you could call it, not as a dispassionate educator. Educator means a person who is an educator tells you these are the options for you. Like somebody is doing career counseling. Then they say, okay, if you choose this career, you need this much money to spend, you have to work this much hard, this is the competition over here, this is the kind of package you can get afterwards. And in this option, like that. So educator is like that. If somebody is sick, and their child is sick and they go to a doctor, some serious sickness, maybe the child has got some cancer. So now, it's a very serious discussion. The doctor tells you, you can try this treatment, you can try this treatment, you can try this treatment. And then after that, the doctor says, now you do as you desire. So in one sense, when the doctor comes to this point of saying, now you do as you desire. Or the career counselor says, now you choose which career you want to choose. In one sense, you can say the career counselor has come to the end of their counsel. The doctor has come to the end of their discussion. And this itself, while Krishna is being a detached educator, not dispassionate. Dispassionate means, sometimes some career counselors have a bias. Say if there is an allopathic doctor, an allopathic doctor is rarely going to recommend Ayurvedic treatment. They are going to recommend allopathy only. So if Ayurvedic doctor is there, they are rarely going to recommend Ayurveda, as anything other than Ayurveda, allopathy for example. That's understandable. Sometimes some people have a certain bias. Well, you could say bias, preference, whatever negative, positive word you want to use. But if somebody is dispassionate in the sense that, okay, this is this part, this is this part, this is this part. Now you decide what you want. Now when Krishna is doing this, what does it imply? It implies here that Krishna is a God. He is the God, but we're talking about specific characteristic of God over here. He's a God who respects human independence. Not only respects human independence, and he appeals to human intelligence. See, Krishna is not telling you have to do this. And Krishna is not saying you are a fool, you won't understand. So, तुम्हारे भले के लिए मैं जो बोलता हूँ वो करो. For your own good, just do what I am telling you. Krishna is not having that means. This is very rarely seen in any of the sacred texts of the world. A God who respects human independence. Normally the idea of God is, you obey me or you want to go to hell. Okay, that is not the mood of Krishna in the Bhagavad. So Krishna is saying that you make your choice, I have given you options. So there are two ways of communication. When we communicate with people, especially when we are giving guidance itself. Now one is, we can give instruction. Do this and don't do this. Another is we can give vision. That means if you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. So in general, for most people, when they are making life decisions, most people don't like to be instructed. It is, as soon as somebody gives an instruction, do this. Why should I do that? Who are you to tell me to do it? They may not say that openly, but that feeling comes up. But we give them vision. Okay, if you take this treatment, this causes, there is this complication. If you take this treatment, it's like this. Okay, yeah, this treatment does seem better. Let me try that. So vision means basically we talk about choices and their consequences. Instruction is more of do this. So now Krishna at this point, what is he doing? Which one of these two? Yes, he is given vision and he said, now you decide. This is also actually a sign of love. Love means we actually respect the independence of the other person. So, say, if a boy proposes to her, please marry me. And she says no. And he takes out a gun. Don't marry me, I'll shoot you. And that's not love, that's force. Now we very easily understand that, say, in a romantic context. But, say, what about in the parental context? As parents, especially when our children are small, there are certain boundaries we have to emphasize. That, say, you want to play, you can play, but you can't go in the middle of the road and play. And some boundaries have to be very forcefully emphasized. It's for their own safety. There is a place for giving instruction to children. But especially as they start growing up, it needs to be more of vision. Because we don't want just our children to be obedient. Yes, of course, obedience is an important virtue. But we also want to help our children to grow up to be independent and self-sufficient. We want to take their decisions in their childhood, but we also want them to take good decisions. So, many times when I travel across the world, many parents have concerns about their children. And then parents have a lot of concerns about their children. And I ask them, you feel so disturbed or disappointed that your children aren't listening to you. Suppose, nowadays we have AI or artificial intelligence. Suppose we got a sophisticated robot which looks just like your child and perfectly obeys you. Would you want a robot in front instead of your child? Many parents may want a robot in addition to the child. But there's a place for having someone who does things for us. But there is no reciprocation of love. There is no bonding over there, isn't it? So while obedience is an important virtue, real guidance is not just restricting a person to obedience. His real guidance is also equipping the person to take good decisions. And that is what Krishna is doing over here. He's a dispassionate leader. Now Krishna, they are saying, I have given you the information, now you decide what you want. So now at this point, Arjuna goes deep into thought. Arjuna starts thinking, Krishna spoke this in the 2nd chapter, Krishna spoke that in the 6th chapter, Krishna spoke that in the 12th chapter. No, Arjuna does not think in exact those terms, because when Krishna was speaking the Bhagavad Gita, he didn't say, this is the 2nd chapter now, this is the 12th chapter, this is the 6th chapter. But Arjuna is remembering, Krishna spoke that over there, and that over there, and this over here, and that over there. He's deep in thought. Now what is Arjuna's contemplation? At this point, Arjuna has become contemplative. Vishwanath Chakravarti goes very beautifully into this stays in the heart of Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna's contemplation is not just, what do I like to do? That would be his contemplation, but that is not his contemplation at this stage. His contemplation is, what does Krishna want me to do? See, the best situation in a loving relationship is that the ideal situation is, let's say the person in authority, the person who is in a senior position, like a parent. The parent gives freedom. And the child seeks guidance. Like the parents say, you do whatever you want. But the child says, I want to know what you want me to do. But quite often it's the opposite. The child says, I want to do what I want to do. And the parents say, you do what I want to do. So then it becomes quite straight. But here, so Krishna has given freedom in 1863 to Arjuna. He's saying, now you do as you desire. But Arjuna is seeking guidance. Guidance, but not just in the sense that that's what he has done right in the beginning of the Gita. But here, his guidance he's seeking is, so what is Krishna's preference? He wants to know, what would Krishna really want me to do? I have no particular attachment over here. I'm attached to Krishna. I want to do what will please Krishna. So Krishna becomes contemplative. Arjuna becomes contemplative at this point. And when he becomes contemplative, then Krishna sees that Arjuna has so much devotion for him that Arjuna wants to do what Krishna would like him to do. Then Krishna speaks the next verse. So it's like going back to the doctor example. Say, if we tell the doctor, if this had been your child, what treatment would you recommend? If the doctor really comes, the doctor will say that, no, I am allopath, but maybe I will, for my child, I will do naturopathy, because allopathy has no cure over it. Sometimes they may be honestly, there's a professional opinion, but then there's a personal opinion also. So like that, at this point, Krishna's will changes, because he sees that Arjuna really wants to know. And then Krishna's love overflows from his heart. So, what do you mean by the love overflows from his heart? If you look at 1864, in this there are 6 intensifiers. See, intensifier means, I care for you. I care for you very much. So very much is an intensifier. So like that, when Krishna is expressing over here, he's saying there are multiple intensifiers over here. Let's look at his interface. Sarva Guhya Tamam. So Krishna has said that I have given you Guhya Tara knowledge, I have given you more confidential, but now I am giving you the most confidential knowledge. Sarva Guhya Tamam. Now, this word Guhya can have 2 different meanings. And they're not exactly the same. One is secret and the other is private. While the 2 can seem the same, there's a significant difference between the 2 of them. That secret means no one should know it. Private means say there is some ceremony in a home, and say the husband is talking with several guests, and the wife comes in, can I have a private moment with you? Now what does that mean? That means, it's not that it is secret, but it is not relevant for everyone else. So I want to talk with you. And then they move aside and talk. So Guhya is more in the sense of private than secret. So like the doctor, and the doctor is giving, if this were my child, this is what I would recommend. That's not a secret thing. It's not that is hidden, but it's private. It's something which is not relevant for everyone else. Say for example, private means it is, you could say, within a bond of love. Within a relationship or a bond of love. So that is what Krishna is going to speak. So I'll speak this privately to somebody. Says, okay, we feel privileged. So what are you going to tell me in private? Sarva Guhya Tamam. That's the first intensifier. It's special knowledge. And the second is Bhuya. Bhuya means again. I'm speaking this again to you. Now sometimes this word again See, the same word can be said in very different ways. I'm speaking this again to you. That can mean this is important. That can mean I'm speaking this again to you. You are such a dumb person, you have probably forgotten. So I have to speak it again to you. So it can be in the second mood also. So bhuyaha can be in the mood of emphasis, or it can be in the mood of derision. Derision means disrespect. You just don't respect or trust the other person. Disrespect or distrust. You keep forgetting, so I'll tell you again. So in Krishna, the whole context here is of very great affection. So this is in which mood? Emphasis. This is important. That's why Sarva Bhujyatam Bhujyata. Then Shrunumi Arjuna here, Paramam Vachaha. Paramam Vachaha means what? Supreme words. So now, what happens is that sometimes something will be private, but it may not be really very important. Say like there's a ceremony over there, and say a child calls us, Mommy, I want to talk with you. You don't know, I want to talk with you now. You tell him, no, it's private. And then, actually, I have lost my toy. It's not so important, isn't it? But for the child, I don't want everyone to know about it. Something can be private, but that may not be very important. But Krishna is saying this is not just private, it is Paramam Vachaha. It is among everything that I have spoken, these are supreme words. And then, the next emphasizer is Ishto Asi. That you are dear to me. You are dear to me. You are special to me. So once, I have a doctor friend who has a little bit sense of humor. So he says, whenever he consults a patient, he says, so I was with him, then you are special to me. And then he says this to everyone. You're saying you are special to everyone. He says, yeah, I'm saying you are special. I'm not saying you are unique. So the point is, sometimes somebody will just use the word special without really meaning much. But Krishna is saying, Ishtosi, you are dear to me. And that means what I'm going to speak to you is not just like my professional opinion. I care for you. Ishtosi. And not only that, it is humility. I strongly, deeply care for you. So what does the word Drudha mean? Does anyone? Determined, yes. Now interestingly, what has happened is Krishna earlier in 9:14, Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yatantascha Drudha. So there he has said that, for example, if you consider devotee and Krishna. So Krishna has said that devotee should be determined to practice bhakti. This is what Krishna has said in 9:14. But here Krishna is saying, I am not asking you anything more than what I am giving you. Krishna says, I am determined to love you. This is 1864. He says, totality. What that means is that actually, whatever you do, I will love you. I will care for you. Dudamiti, I'm determined to love you. We'll come back to this point slightly later. And the last point is Tato Vakshami Te Hitam. I'm speaking this for your benefit. There's nothing for me to gain in this. Krishna is Purna. Krishna is Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam. He's complete. He is happy in himself with his devotees. He doesn't need us. When he comes to us, listens to this word, it is because of his care for us. Because he cares for us. Te Hitam. This is actually an outpouring of Krishna's heart, where he's revealing how much he loves Arjuna. We know that in the Ramayana, there is that incident where the Ayodhya-vasis, they find all these monkeys all over Ayodhya suddenly. It's very strange. Okay, monkeys are meant to be in forests, monkeys are meant to be in trees, but Ram has brought all those monkeys into the homes, into the palaces. And they just find it a little funny, a little strange, a little weird. But then, we know that incident. And Hanuman, he is challenged. You really have so much devotion to Sita and Ram? Yes. And then what happens is he bears open his chest. And there is seen by everyone the divine couple in his heart. So we could say that in this section, 1864, Krishna is doing the same thing. Krishna is bearing his heart. And Krishna is revealing how much there is love in his heart for Arjuna. So 1864, Krishna bears his heart. Just as Hanuman does. Now the question may come, is this love only for Arjuna or is this love for all living beings? What do you think? All living beings.
Pure devotees.
Okay. For his devotees, for his pure devotees, for all living beings. Okay, so if we say all living beings, then is there nothing special for Krishna, Arjuna in this? Okay. So actually all the answers are right. How? Because see, love is reciprocal. Prabhupada was once asked, do you love all your disciples? Do you love all your disciples equally? And Prabhupada said yes. And if someone comes forward to render service, I reciprocate. It's just like, do parents love all their children? Of course. But if one child is more responsible, more committed, more trustworthy, then naturally the parents, I can count on this child. I care for all my children, but I can count on this child. So there are degrees. So we could say Krishna's love for us it's like Krishna has various circles of love. And every living being is in one or the other circle. So I'm not running all the circles, but let's start with few circles only. So say the innermost circle will be say of the gopis of Vrindavan. They are the topmost. Yes. Then we could say there are in general, not residents of the spiritual world. Not just of Vrindavan, but of the various spiritual worlds. Like Kuntha, all of them are fully pure and they are liberated. Then we could say there are pure devotees in this world. Then there are sadhakas. And then there are just all living beings. So we could say that for pure devotees, we can say Krishna says is Bhakta Vatsala. These of course they are dear to him. But in sadhakas, Krishna says Sukritina. They are also dear to him. And Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. So this is 529, this is 716 and 18 again. With respect to pure devotees, there are many words of how Krishna cares, how Krishna loves his devotees. For example, 929. The gopis, there are so many verses about it. So we could look for references for all of these, but the point is, everyone is situated in one of these circles of him. Krishna loves everyone. Now, if we are, say, just here, Krishna still loves us. But Krishna wants us to come closer to him and come towards him. So, it's not that God doesn't love us now. He loves us even now as we are. But he wants us to come closer. So when Krishna is saying these verses they specifically apply to Arjuna, but they also apply to us. to the degree that we are willing to reciprocate with him. So Krishna loves each one of us. And that is what he said. I care for you. So from this verse onward, I was using the acronym L. So first that shows Krishna to be an educator. And from 64 onwards till 71, it actually shows Krishna to be a lover. How is he a lover? Here he is expressing his love. And then after that, Krishna said, I am going to speak the most confidential knowledge to you. Okay, then what is the confidential knowledge? There it comes in the next words. Now 1865 is actually very similar to 934. 1865 is Manmana bhav madbhakto madhya jivam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. This verse is actually stating that, so this is the till 2.5 lines, Mame Vaishyasi. It is very, not as similar, it's identical to the previous verse. So you can say 2.5 verses, 2.5 lines you can say. They are both identical, not just similar. Now let's look at the difference in the last 2 lines. So when Krishna is saying Bhuyaha, I speak this again. He's referring to that. In 934 I have spoken it, but now I am speaking it again. But there is a slight difference. So here it is. Satyam te pratijane priyosime. Satyam te means I am speaking the truth. Why? Pratijane. Pratijane means I am proclaiming, I am declaring. Pratijane priyosime. Priyosime. You are very dear to me. You are very dear to me. I declare this is the truth because you are very dear to me. Whereas then 934 is what? Ma me vishyasi yuktavaivam atmana matparayana. Then he says, in this way, if you are engaged in me, atmana matparayana. If in this way you engage yourself in bhakti and you dedicate yourself to me, you will come to me. So here we could say the difference, if you want to understand it, let's go back to the medicine metaphor. Say a patient has a complicated disease. The doctor says that if you stick to this treatment diligently, dedicate yourself to this treatment, the regimen that I want to give you, then you will be cured. So, if you consider this in terms of both of these, in terms of the doctor metaphor, treatment metaphor, so here the emphasis is on stick to the treatment. It's if you stick to the treatment, you do this, then you'll be cured. When you got diabetes, if you stop eating sugar, all sweets, you do this, you do exercise regularly, you do this, then you'll be cured. That's the emphasis of it. But now, if you consider, say a doctor really cares for the patient, and the doctor wants the patient to take the treatment, and the doctor is really concerned that the patient doesn't take the treatment, the patient may get ruined. So then, what the doctor will say is, emphasis will be, I guarantee you, you will be cured. So, now, Krishna's mood here is like that doctor. I guarantee you, I care for you, I am speaking the truth because you are dear to me. You take this treatment, you will be cured. So the statement is the same, but the emphasis is different. In 934 it was, you have to commit to the treatment. And in 1865 it is, you will be cured. I am speaking the truth for your benefit over here. So where does the love come out more? Yes, here, 1865. So that is Arjuna, Krishna speaking of. That's the difference. The words are similar, but the difference indicates a difference in disposition. And then, in case Arjuna still has some reservation. Okay, so Krishna speaks the next verse, which is the Charan shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah. So Krishna is saying, Arjuna, yes, I have spoken many different things to you, but this is the highest. This is the highest. And Krishna said, Paramam Vachaha, I'll speak that supreme words. So, if you consider this 1865 is the Guhyatamam. This is the most confidential. I'm speaking this for your benefit. And 1866 is the Paramam Vachaha. These are the supreme words. Sarva Dharman, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Arjuna, if you're confused about the various options I told you and the various things that are to be done, I'm telling you right now, this is what you should do. And it's like a doctor saying, if you take this treatment, then any complications, I guarantee I'll take care of all the complications. That's how he said, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. So here, it's more like Krishna is saying that I will take personal responsibility for you. And that is a big thing to do. Now, many times people may care for us, but they may want to help us. But they say, no, this was your problem. I can only help this much. But Krishna is saying, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. So sarva papebhyo almost means like Krishna is saying, I am going to take full responsibility. Whenever we go and have some insurance, in India the LIC has stolen Krishna's words, Yoga Kshemam Vahamya. But no matter how good an insurance provider is, see, all insurance providers, they have always limited liability. Isn't it? We will not cover this. And they will find how our case falls in that sometimes. Just so that they don't cover. And even if they cover, they will say, we'll cover only up to this amount. This is your coverage. But Krishna says, Sarva Papebhyo. Basically, he's saying, I take unlimited liability. Whatever be the problems coming in your life, I will be with you. I will never abandon you. In some religious traditions, the idea is if you disobey God, God sends you to hell. In our tradition, it is not God who sends us to hell. It is because of our own karma, we go through various situations. And one of those situations can be hell. But in our tradition, Krishna doesn't send us to hell. Krishna goes with us to hell. Krishna as the Paramatma never abandons us. Even if we have got into trouble because of our own actions, still Krishna is there with us. So this is unlimited liability. He doesn't say, you suffer, now you go to hell. He doesn't send us to hell. It is, He goes with us to hell. There is nothing that we can ever do that will make Krishna say, no, I have had enough of you. Enough. I have nothing to do with you. Sometimes, the parents will say, if you do this, you are no longer my child. Krishna never says like that to him. Krishna is always there for everyone. That is his love for us. He takes Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami. And then Ma Shuchama, do not fear. I am there with you. So with this verse, Krishna is actually exploding one of the common myths about the Bhagavad Gita. One of the common myths of the Bhagavad Gita is that, the Gita has different paths for different people. Whichever path you want, you can choose. Well, in fact, that is perfectly fine. Yes, the Gita does talk about different paths. And Krishna is okay if we choose any path. In the sense that it is a path which is going to help us grow spiritually. But Krishna is not saying, sometimes people say that all paths lead to the same goal. If that were literally true, Prabhupada asked this question once, and Prabhupada said, Swami, I do not know the verse, but Krishna said in the Gita that whatever we do, we will come to him. Prabhupada had a simple response. Prabhupada was so brilliant in his logic. See, if that were the case, then why does Krishna even have to speak the Gita? If whatever we do, we are going to go to God, then whatever we do, we can do it without even hearing the words of God. See, the basic principle of karma is that actions have consequences. Now the Gita's message, or Krishna's message in the Gita, whichever you want to put it, no, it is definitely inclusive. Krishna does not condemn karma yoga. Krishna does not reject or condemn jnana yoga. Inclusive means karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyan yoga, bhakti yoga, all of them are included. But at the same time, Krishna's message is not inconclusive. It is very clearly conclusive. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. So 1866 shows that it is conclusive. And Prabhupada in his Gita commentary has this mood of Krishna from 1866. Prabhupada, sometimes people get very disturbed. Krishna is talking about karma yoga and Prabhupada is translating as bhakti yoga. And on top of that, Prabhupada translates karma yoga and bhakti yoga and then he says, this is Bhagavad Gita as it is. How can you do that? Somebody may ask. But what is Prabhupada doing? See, Prabhupada is saying this Bhagavad Gita as it is in terms of Krishna's conclusion. So see, Krishna has his own flow. He talks about karma yoga to bhakti yoga. I discussed this earlier. Jnana yoga to bhakti yoga. The Gita has its own intricate flow. And if we read especially the chapter transitions, what Prabhupada says in chapter 1, the first verse of a chapter or the last verse of a chapter, you will see Prabhupada is aware of the subtle flow of thought in the Bhagavad Gita. For example, at the end of the second chapter, it is said, in this chapter a hint of Bhakti Yoga has been given, Karma Yoga has been described in detail. But Prabhupada in his purports has not given a hint, he has given a full picture of Bhakti Yoga. So Prabhupada is following a conscious strategy. So what Prabhupada is doing is, that what Krishna is giving at the end, Prabhupada is taking that and Prabhupada is giving that throughout. And why does Prabhupada do this? Prabhupada says, in Kali Yuga people have less time, less intelligence, less focus. He says that even if they read one page of the Bhagavad Gita, they should get the essential message. Now, you see, Prabhupada is actually, some commentators, some analysts, Prabhupada is actually overwriting Krishna's message. Krishna is in Karma Yoga and Prabhupada is in Bhakti Yoga. Well, no, Prabhupada is not overwriting. If he had wanted to do that, Prabhupada would not have given the Sanskrit at all. There are Gita translators who say that, actually people can't understand Sanskrit now. So I'll just give the English. So Prabhupada could have just given his own English translation, his purports. And most people would not even have gone to the Sanskrit and seen that, okay, this is what it is, this is what it is. But Prabhupada has given us the Sanskrit. Not only the Sanskrit, he has given the Sanskrit in English transliteration. Then he has given a word-to-word translation. Then he has given his translation, his purpose. So Prabhupada is not hiding. Prabhupada is not overwriting Krishna's words. Prabhupada is giving Krishna's words as they are. And Prabhupada is giving Krishna's conclusion as he has given at the end of it. So this is actually Prabhupada's commentary. It is giving Krishna's mood of 1866. This is what Prabhupada's commentary used consistently. It's Sarva dharman parityajya. So it is what Krishna is giving at the end of the book, Prabhupada is giving us throughout the book. And that is his compassion. He is not overwriting Krishna's words. He is giving access to Krishna's words in advance. That in case somebody does not get to the end of the book, the Gita is not easy to read, it's complex. So if somebody doesn't get to the end of the book, let them get the conclusion throughout. This is Prabhupada's compassionate strategy. So this is 1866. And here we see Krishna's love for Arjuna coming out very beautifully over here. And then after that, Krishna says, okay Arjuna, now I have spoken this, don't speak this to everyone. Why? It's like say, a father, say a son has done something very responsible, very trustworthy, something that earned the trust of his father. Then the father may take the son to some secret treasure closet and show him, this is the treasure that I have. This treasure is for you. But the same father may tell him, don't tell this to your siblings right now. They are not mature enough. If they come to us with all this wealth, they will demand it and they will squander it. Now that treasure is meant for them only. But what the father wants is that the children become mature. So, in 1867, Krishna says, don't speak this to everyone. That is not for deprivation. This is not meant for you, not going to get this. That's not the point. That is more for protection. This is for you, but you need to grow up and get it. Like if the parents give child some pocket money, and the child goes and maybe it's wanders and all on chocolates, or maybe worse, he'll start taking some cigarette or drugs or something like that. Parents say your pocket money is cut off now. You learn to use money responsibly, you'll get more and more of it. So that's the point of Krishna in 1867. But then Krishna says, but you do share. If you see, like the father will say, those of your siblings who are mature, do tell them about this. If you tell what I have for them, you will be dear to me. So the next 3 verses are beautiful. Krishna is talking about, you could say it's like Krishna's descending robe of mercy. First Krishna says, you teach my message. You teach this Bhagavad Gita to everyone and you will become most dear to me. But there will be no one as dear to me as you are. That's what Krishna says in 1868 and 69. And then somebody might say that, teaching is very complicated. And I can't do that. And Krishna says, okay, if you can't teach, just study. That's what he says in 70. Somebody is studying, I have to open a book, I have to read a book. It's like nowadays people are on Facebook because they can't face books. So somebody will say, I can't do that. So then Krishna says, okay, then you just hear. He says, any of this you do, you will be elevated. It's like Krishna's love is extending so much. You say if somebody is caught, fallen in the bottom of a well, and then somebody from outside extends a rope. And they say, okay, you catch this rope and climb out. And that itself is great mercy. So, the first is climb out. Second is, you say, no, but how can I climb? It will strain my arms and legs so much. Then the second person says, okay, you just tie this rope around, I'll pull you out. You just tie this rope around your waist. And say, well, it's okay, But if I tie this rope around my waist, and the knot will hurt my waist so much. Then what that person does is, that person sends a rope with a nice big tub. Just sit inside the tub, I'll pull you up. So, this is third level. That's what Krishna is saying. You teach this message, you can't teach it, you just study it. You can't study it, at least hear it. And that way you will become elevated. So Krishna basically wants us to connect with him at some level or the other. That is how much he longs for us to connect with him. Now after this is where the second level ends. The second level is that Krishna is the impassioned lover. Then Krishna speaks the last words in the Bhagavad Gita. Kachideta shutam partha tvayekagrena chetasa kachidajnana sammoha pranashtaste dhananjaya. He normally, see in the Bhagavad Gita, how many chapters are there? 18 chapters. How many verses? How many questions are there? 3. Oh. 17, huh? Okay, that's actually. There is 1 plus 17 plus 1. So 17 are by Arjuna, 1 is by Dhritarashtra, and 1 is by Krishna. So we don't like Dhritarashtra, so there are 18 questions. So the point is that Arjuna asked 17 questions, but at the end it is Krishna who asks the question. And this is a 2-part question. Arjuna, have you heard attentively? Have you understood clearly? Now, this question, heard and understood. Now when they say, have you heard attentively? This can seem like a disrespectful question. That means, you are so lazy, you are distracted. Did you hear me attentively? But that is not Krishna's mood over here. It's heard, this question could be a question of disrespect, question asked with disrespect, but it can also be a question asked with concern. So remember, this is a battlefield, and they're in the middle of the battlefield. And right at the beginning of the Gita, Arjuna was in tears. Arjuna was overwhelmed by emotion. So Krishna is telling him, did the outer situation or his inner emotion, did they distract him from hearing? Did they make it difficult for him to hear? So concern, that situation or emotion, did either of them distract him? That he was in a battlefield and then he was in tears. So that's what Krishna is asking. And then he's saying, have you heard attentively? And have you understood? Kachid ajnana sammoha prashtaste dhananjaya. So have you understood it properly? Now the Chakravarti Pada explains that what Krishna is saying here is, Arjuna, if there's any part that you are either not able to hear, not able to understand, then tell me, I am ready to repeat it. I am ready to repeat in part, I am ready to repeat in full also. I am here for it. If you consider, many times there are in schools or colleges there are teachers, and those teachers have their private school, private education, private tuitions. And those teachers say, no, if you're not understood anything, come to my private tuition. Pay extra money, then I'll tell you. But Krishna is not like that. He says, I'm ready to repeat whatever you need. So this is where we see Krishna to be a mentor, a concerned mentor. See, an educator is just a person who gives options. A lover may care for us, but a lover need not necessarily always be a guide. Those who love can also guide us, but here Krishna is a mentor who is concerned. Have you understood properly? Is everything clear for you? And the last words that Krishna speaks. What is the last word spoken by Krishna? Krishna's last word? Dhananjaya, isn't it? Dhananjaya. Now what does Dhananjaya literally mean? Winner of wealth. So this also reveals Krishna's purpose. That Krishna wants Arjuna to be enriched, to win the wealth of wisdom. The wealth of wisdom is actually among the greatest wealths. So Krishna wants Arjuna to be enriched with this wealth of wisdom. And that's why he uses this particular name at the end. So here Krishna is a mentor. Now Arjuna replies, yes Krishna, I have understood. My doubts have been dispelled. That brings us to the last part of our discussion today. So what is the acronym we're using? S. So we have the last S that is written. Then you know what is S? Strength giver. Now we see Krishna's potential to have given strength to Arjuna. Arjuna was overwhelmed so much by weakness He just said, he couldn't even hold his bow up. He said, I can't fight. But what happened was, by Krishna's message, Nashto mohasmriti labdha, tvat prasadan mayachita, sitosmi vita sandeha, karishye vachanam tava. So here, what is the strength that Krishna has given? Krishna has given empowerment. Empowerment to do God's will. That it's a difficult situation that Arjuna is in. But sometimes we all face difficult situations. And difficult situations, we have to make difficult decisions. It's not easy, but we have to do it. And when we hear Krishna's message, we understand how Krishna loves us. And Krishna is with us. And that gives us this empowerment. Generally in our life, say, I'm here. So there are, broadly, we could say, things in our control. And then there are things beyond our control. Now what the Gita says is, actually Krishna's will applies in both situations. So that means that what is in our control, to do what is in our control, that is also Krishna's will. So Krishna is doing his will through us. And what is beyond our control, we accept that. So Krishna tells Arjuna to surrender. Isn't it? Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. And then Arjuna surrenders. But how is Arjuna surrendering? The classic example of the surrender is Draupadi. Now Draupadi raises both her arms in surrender. Now does Arjuna raise both his arms in surrender? No. Arjuna raises his arms in surrender. He rips up his bow in readiness to fight. So both are forms of surrender. Surrender has these two aspects to it. Surrender is a dependence. Dependence means whatever is your will, Krishna will accept it. But there is also diligence. That Krishna, I will do your will. So dependence is to accept Krishna's will. Krishna, whatever you do that is good for me, I accept it. But that's not all. To do Krishna's will. Both are there for us. Right, the doctor is doing surgery. At that time, it's a critical surgery. When it's a doctor and patient, both are devotees. Both may surrender to Krishna's will. But the patient surrenders to dependence. The doctor cannot surrender through dependence. Doctor surrenders through diligence. Yeah, I will do this surgery as well as I can. So there are both forms of surrender that are important. So whatever is in our control, we do it as well as we can. And what is beyond our control, we accept that it's Krishna's. When I had started public speaking in Bhakti about 25 years ago, so one senior devotee had given me 10 points for speaking about Krishna. And the last point was, depend on Krishna. But followed by in bracket, depend on Krishna, but only after you have prepared your class. No, even if I have to speak on dependence on Krishna. So yes, I depend on Krishna to what will I remember during the class, what kind of questions come up, how I'll answer them. But if I don't prepare for the class, only I say I'm depending on Krishna. And that is not being dependent, that is simply being irresponsible. See? We have to do our part of it. So this is one aspect, is it? Krishna gives strength to Arjuna to do Krishna's will. Now we could say 1873 the Gita could have ended. Why have 5 more verses? Who speaks these 5 verses? Sanjay speaks this last 5 verses, 74 to 78. Now why is he speaking them? Or why is the Gita including them? Because in the first verse begins with Dhritarashtra. But you see that Krishna, in one sense, if you see, Krishna spoke the Gita to Arjuna. And there was success. In the sense that Arjuna's heart was transformed, Arjuna's mind was cleared and he was ready to do Krishna's will. Now Sanjay spoke the same Gita to Dhritarashtra. Now did Dhritarashtra's heart change? No. Then because there was failure over here. Isn't it? But you will see that if you look at 1876 and 77, the Sanjay's heart was enriched. And that was the success. 1876, Krishna says, Rajan samsmritya samsmritya samvadamim adbhutam keshavarjunayo punyam rushyami cha muhurmuhu samsmritya samsmritya रूपमत्य अद्भुतम हरे विस्मयो मे महान राजन rushyami cha punah punah. So using the word rushyami, I'm thrilled and delighted and relishing it. So 76 he's talking about Krishna's message, and then 77 he's talking about Krishna's form. So basically, when we speak about Krishna to others, so we may try to distribute books, we may try to invite somebody for a program, we may ask us to give some either a formal class or an informal media discussion. Sometimes people may be persuaded and sometimes people may not be persuaded. So in this world, nobody is guaranteed success all the time, not even devotees. But if we serve Krishna, if we speak Krishna's message, our heart will become enriched by that. And that is the other. Krishna is the strength giver that in 1876-77, he can offer enrichment of the heart. So empowerment in the world. Sometimes Krishna may empower us to change the situations in the world. And Krishna can also give us enrichment in the heart. That means even if the world does not change, still our heart will change. And that is something which only Krishna can give. A doctor may say that, okay, I'm going to give you this treatment, and this treatment may cure you, it will not cure you, it will make you happy. Well, no, if I don't get cured, I won't be happy. Isn't it? Doctor cannot make us happy like that. Generally, in this world, we normally equate success with happiness. When I get success, then I'll get happiness. But Krishna can give us happiness even without success. That when Prabhupada went to America and when he was there in 1965-66, he had tried his whole life to preach and it had not been successful. But Prabhupada was never bitter. Prabhupada was still happy, and that's what was most striking for people who met Prabhupada in 1965-66. He was just a lonely man, alone man walking on the streets, elderly, in a strange land. But when they heard Prabhupada talk about Krishna, his face was light up, his eyes would light up, and Prabhupada was so happy. Prabhupada talked about Krishna all day to whoever who came to meet him. And all night, Prabhupada was talking about Krishna to people who hadn't yet come to meet him. Prabhupada was writing his books. And Prabhupada, that time also was enriched by his connection with Krishna. So in this way, the Gitas, when Krishna is the strength giver, that strength may sometimes be for us to change our situation, like he did to Arjuna. But sometimes that strength may be to accept Krishna's plan, even if that doesn't mean changing the situation, as it did for Sanjay. So in both of these, we can see Krishna's hand, Krishna's benediction, and move ahead in life. This is the love of Krishna for us that is revealed at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. And this is what we can pray on the occasion of this Gita Jayanti, on occasion of we studied this series, that Krishna, please give me the conviction of your benevolence, that you love me, that you care for me, that you want the best for me. And if even a little bit of that conviction comes by Gita study, that will be our armor against life's adversities. And we all can face life much better with that armor. So I'll summarize what we discussed today. We discussed the theme of I'm perceiving Krishna's love in the Gita. Summary in Hindi. तो आज हमने चर्चा की किस तरह से कि हम भगवान कृष्ण का प्रेम भगवद गीता में देख सकते हैं। तो हमने 4 पहलू देखे उसके। सबसे पहला एक्रोनिम था, क्या था? एल्स। ई क्या था? एजुकेटेड। इस तरह से हमने देखा 1863 में कि भगवान अपनी जो इच्छा है, अपनी जो मर्जी है वो अर्जुन पे नहीं लाद रहे हैं। वो क्या दे रहे हैं? कृष्ण अर्जुन को बोल रहे हैं कि आप जो करना चाहते हो वो करो। तो लव का, प्रेम का अर्थ होता है कि दूसरे व्यक्ति की जो स्वेच्छा है उसको स्वीकार करें। तो भगवान अर्जुन की स्वेच्छा स्वेच्छा को आदर करते हैं, अर्जुन की बुद्धि को वो अपील कर रहे हैं कार्य करना चाहिए। और यहाँ पे क्या है, इस विभाग में हम देखते हैं कि कृष्ण अर्जुन से कि गाइडेंस जो दे रहे हैं वो किस भाव में है? वो इंस्ट्रक्शन नहीं है, वो क्या है? विजन है। ऐसा करो नहीं, ऐसा करो, करिए तो ये होगा, ऐसे करिए तो वो होगा, आप फैसला करो क्या करना है। फिर दूसरा क्या था? उसमें काफी समय मिला था, लवर। कृष्णा जो है वो लवर है। 64 से 71 तक हमने देखा। कैसे 64 में हम देखा कि देयर आर 6 इंटेंसिफायर्स। कैसे सर्वभूयतमम भूया परमम बचा, ये सब। तो यहाँ पे क्या है, कृष्ण अपना हृदय खोल के बता रहे हैं कि वो कितना अर्जुन से प्रेम करते हैं। इसके संदर्भ में हमने देखा कि कैसे भगवान के सर्कल्स ऑफ लव होते हैं और हर जीव जो है भगवान के किसी सर्कल, किसी वर्तुल में जरूर है। तो भगवान सबसे प्रेम करते हैं और उनकी इच्छा है कि हम भी उनसे प्रेम करें, उनके और करीब आ जाए। और या फिर 65 है, उसमें क्या है, हम देखते हैं कि कैसे मनमना भाव वो श्लोक आता है और वो फर्क है उसका 930 से सिमिलर है, 930 से फर्क है। ये फर्क है इसमें कृष्ण कैसे जो है उनके जो कंसर्न डॉक्टर करो, मैं गारंटी देता हूँ सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा। तो इसमें जो है ये सर्वगुह्यतम ये दिख रहा है। और फिर 66 में जो था कि सर्वधर्मान परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज। तो यहाँ पे डॉक्टर का उदाहरण देते हैं, यहाँ पे वही क्या है, अनलिमिटेड लायबिलिटी। बोल रहे हैं कि कुछ भी हो जाए मैं तुम्हारे साथ हूँ। भगवान किसी को नरक में नहीं भेजते हैं, भगवान जो इसके कर्म से वो नरक में जा रहा है, भगवान उसके साथ जाते हैं नरक में, और भगवान वहाँ पे भी परमात्मा के रूप में उनके साथ रहते हैं। और फिर तीसरा क्या देखा हमने, मेंटर। ये था 72nd श्लोक के अनुसार क्या था, यहाँ पे भगवान बता रहे हैं कि अर्जुन अगर तुम कुछ समझो नहीं हो तो क्या मैं पुनः आपको समझाने के तैयार हूँ। तो क्या आप सुन पाए कि इतना आप डिस्टर्ब थे, इतना वातावरण ये रणभूमि है, क्या आप सुन पाए और क्या आप समझ पाए? और अगर नहीं समझ पाए तो मैं वापस पुनः दोहराने के तैयार हूँ। और आखिरी शब्द है धनंजय। इसका अर्थ क्या है कि भक्त चाहते हैं कि अर्जुन को ज्ञान का, जो विजडम का जो वेल्थ है, जो संपत्ति है वो मिल जाए। और आखिरी क्या था, स्ट्रेंथ गिवर, कि भगवान जो है वो सबको शक्ति देते हैं। तो एक वो 73 में देखा और दूसरा 76, 77 में। एक को शक्ति देते हैं हमें कि वो उनकी जो इच्छा है हम कर पाए और जिससे कि हम जो परिस्थिति को बदले, चेंज द सिचुएशन। जो अर्जुन को युद्ध करके परिस्थितियों को बदलने की शक्ति भगवान ने दी है। और दूसरा क्या था, एनरिच, कि अगर हम परिस्थिति बदल भी नहीं पाए फिर भी उसी परिस्थिति में हम भगवान का स्मरण कर सकते हैं। चेंज कॉन्शियसनेस, चेंज आवर फोकस ऑफ थॉट, चेंज हम किस बारे में विचार कर रहे हैं वो अगर हम बदल देंगे तो क्या होगा, उस परिस्थिति में भी हमको आनंद मिलेगा। तो ये अर्जुन के लिए था और ये संजय के लिए था। तो इन सब से अगर हम समझेंगे कि हमें अगर श्रद्धा आ जाएगी इन कृष्णाज बेनेवलेंस, कि कृष्णा हम सबके परम हित चिंतक हैं, ये अगर आ जाएगा हमें तो वह हमारे लिए क्या होगा, जीवन के लिए एक आर्मर होगा, एक कवच होगा, जिससे कि जीवन की समस्याओं का हम सब सामना कर सकते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। हरे कृष्णा।